The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates. It does not necessarily reflect the views of WDEL or Forever Media.
The Rick Jensen Show on 101.7 FM, 1150 AM, WDEL, and streaming to your smart speaker and mobile device.
All right, coming up in just a bit, the Frigatano jokes. First, let's get to Andrew Wood at Daniel White and Associates. Dan White and Associates, they are financial planners specializing in retirement income, and I have been a happy client for many, many years and will continue to do so. Andrew, thanks for being on, my friend. I see you want to talk about the required minimum distributions. That's something that it looks like Congress kind of played around with during COVID and other times. What's the deal now?
Sure. So, Rick, thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah.
There's a number of different rule changes that have taken place, and we do a lot of educational programs, as you're aware of, and we do talk a lot about these required minimum distributions. And basically, what happens is when a retirement plan owner or an IRA owner, when they reach a certain age, the owner typically will need to start taking required minimum distributions. Lots of different rules. Whether you're working or not, whether it's age 70 and a half, that got bumped to 72, or is it now age 73? If you have a Roth, is that going to apply to inherited IRAs? There are just so many different rules and regulations, and I think it's part of our job to make sure, obviously we're staying on top of those rules and making sure our clients are following those rules. So obviously the list goes on and on in terms of those rules. So when it comes, to complicated things, I think human nature kind of, as human beings, we kind of take a step back, and sometimes we try to, we procrastinate. Sometimes we think of reasons as to why they do not apply to us and things like that. Yeah. So people do make mistakes. Either they miss them or, they don't exactly follow the rules properly.
No, as a matter of fact, true story. This happened to my dad, and, he was slipping. He was in his early 80s, I guess maybe about 80, 81 years old or so. And we were talking, and it turns out that he wasn't taking his RMDs for like 2 or 3 years. So I talked to an accountant at the time that he was using, and I asked him, what do you do? So you know what we did? We did what you guys at Dan White and Associates do. Sent off a letter asking forgiveness. And we did. Yeah. And we used the phrase loss of mental capacity, I think it was. And the IRS said, okay, that's cool. And just give us the money you're supposed to give us. We didn't have to pay any additional penalties. Of course, taxes you have to pay. But it was great because didn't have to pay any additional penalties. And I know you guys always advise people to do that sort of thing too, don't you?
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I mean, you just mentioned that, but it has become so complicated and so many mistakes do happen that they used to have a 50% penalty. They brought that down to 25% due to the Secure Act 2.0, and then it's further reduced to 10% if it's corrected within typically 2 years. They even have specific, rules in the code that basically say these are automatic waivers of those penalties. So, yeah, I mean, if you realize you made a mistake, see if those waivers do apply. Now, one rule in particular, and this is kind of still up to debate. I think there's going to be further guidance when it comes to the IRS on this, but there's actually a 3-year statute of limitations for these missed RMDs. So, it's one of those things where if you look at a specific case, I'll go through an example, but, it's really going to, I think, help some of those people if they have missed those, a while back. So here's just an example. We have an individual who inherited an IRA from a sister, so a non-spouse IRA, all right? Person was supposed to start taking these distributions back in 2018, but never took any distributions. It's now 2023, okay? Now, prior to this piece of legislation, the Secure Act 2.0, that person would have faced a penalty for every year that they missed that RMD. However, under the new guidance and guidelines, Robert only may need to be concerned about the previous 3 years. So that would be 2020, 2021, and 2022. All right, so those prior years from 2017 to 2019, for example, that individual may not have to worry about them. They may be dropped.
Cool.
Pretty wild, huh?
Yeah, it's, again, very confusing. We talk about Social Security, for example, and there's so many different moving parts. You never know what they're going to do, and when they do make changes, it seems like most people don't know. But you guys, you do this for a living, and you're always on top of this, which is fantastic, and I'm really grateful for that.
Well, again, I think it's part of our job to make sure that we're staying on top of it and making sure, again, we're applying those rules to really benefit our clients.
Yep, and you do. Andrew Wood with Dan White and Associates, financial planners specializing in retirement income. I listened for Dan White on The Money, 7 a.m. on Sunday. And you and I have no idea what the show's about. That's okay.
I do, actually. It is about what you need to know about resuming the student loan payments this October.
Oh, really? Yeah. I bet that's kind of confusing. All right. Student loan repayments, October, and all the details with Dan White, 7. Well done. Thank you, Andrew. Good talking to you, my friend.
Thanks, Rick. You too.
And by the way, if you want to talk to Andrew, you can give him a call at 888-690-8820, 888-690-8820. He'd love to talk with you. Okay. Bye, Dan. Bye, Andrew. I mean, Dan White and Associates.